Tell me, Watcher, is there a feeling worth getting incinerated over?
Love your mother and trust in her teachings. Do your duties and carry out your function for a future far from sin or incineration. We're all just flowers in a garden of her making. Soon we'll grow beautiful enough to be worth taking. The All-Mother, she shines so bright, but Mother's glow is not as warm as it had seemed to be, and it feels very far from me, and it feels very far from me.
Hi everyone, I'm Mika Dillig, the co-founder and co-chair of AAPI in Gaming. Today is a very special episode that our team has been looking forward to for quite a long time, and it's going to be a real treat for our community. Joining me are two wonderful developers, creative director of Sunset Visitor, Remy Siu, and Watcher voice actress, Nhi Do. Did I say that correctly, by the way?
You got it.
We'll be covering the critically acclaimed 1000xResist and the experiences of these two incredible individuals that brought forth an already legendary tale of immigration, coming of age, intergenerational trauma, and resistance. These are pretty heavy topics for many of us, but for AAPI Heritage Month, I think this is important to discuss together. Not like a standard panel that you see in a conference elsewhere. So without further ado, Remy and Nhi, please introduce yourselves.
Nhi, you should go first.
Okay. It's that awkward. Who should go first? Hey, I'm Nhi Do. I'm an actor for both on camera as well as voice actor. And yeah, I'm the voice of Watcher, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of this game.
I'm Remy Siu. I'm the, as was said, creative director at Sunset Visitor Studio. I also founded the studio, I believe, in 2020. That's what it says on the paper anyways. And before becoming a game developer, I was a composer and experimental performing artist, largely working in kind of new media on stage applications and things like this. And so
That's awesome. Honestly, I was also studying to be a musician back then, but then I went to anthropology, so that kind of resonates with me. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll have a little chat about that some other time. But for today, I'm super excited to get down with this. But before we begin the session, I just want to ask, so today's question is, what is your favorite food currently? It's not all time, but currently. So that way it's not so hard to think about it.
oh man.
Ooh. Well, I'm like craving sweets right now, so I want like strawberry pocky in my face.
Great choice. I love strawberry
Classic.
pocky.
Here.
I know. Remy usually has so many in the office. See? Yes. See, I think that's why. I think it's the association. I see Remy in the office. I'm like, ooh, strawberry pocky.
Food, current food. Oh, I don't know. I'm trying to like. I think I've been somewhat on a quest to try like cheap smash burgers.
Smash burger.
Or like I'm just kind of like trying to go down the rabbit hole of all right, let's try smash burgers. I was in like New York recently, and I went to a place that was like it was like a $2 smash burger or whatever. It's pretty good. It was pretty good. So I've been kind of like keeping an eye out for that kind of thing.
So, do you have any smash burgers near your area?
I think it's becoming a thing in Vancouver. I think there's like increasingly more smash burger places, like Monzo Burger, and I say that, but there's like Junk Burger. There's the Super Smash Burger,
Yeah.
out of the video game bar
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's becoming. I think it's like either coming back or becoming
Yeah, the
something
Poor
like
House
that.
has a good smash burger too.
Poorhouse also has a good smash burger. Yeah, it's true. It's
It's good.
I don't know.
I do like smash. Now you got me on smash burgers.
Yeah, it's one of those. I don't know. Can one consider it the hipster version of the burger now, or like is there like a hipster? Because like I've gone the opposite way with pizza, where it's like now I'm like back to like I want '90s style pizza.
Oh yeah,
Which is just like
cheesy and
like
greasy.
cheesy
Greasy.
cardboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No thin crust.
Yeah, it's not thin crust. It's like I don't know what you would call it. I don't know what.
Like the Little Caesars from Kmart or any of those
Yeah, like a Little
hidden...
Caesars or like a Pizza Hut, like
Oh
personal.
my god, those Little
pizza.
Caesar crusts, man. Those are
The Little
good.
Caesar crust, yeah.
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 There's this place in Vancouver called Maple Leaf Pizza, which is very much that. I mean, there's
that?
many places, honestly.
Maple
probably
Leaf
like
Pizza?
that.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on. It's near Granville Island. It's not like well known.
Okay, I need to find this now.
But because like you saw like that move to like Pizza Garden and all of that stuff.
Yes. We do love the thin crust in Vancouver.
And so I'm wondering, is the smash burger that movement in burgers?
So burgers, because like. Honestly, I was kind of embarrassed to even say that I'm also craving a burger too. Right after this talk, I was thinking of going down to either Burger Lounge that's in San Diego. It's like a San Diego only joint, and it's really good. It's really good. A bit pricey, but I think it's worth it. Or I would go down to BB.Q for fried chicken and rosé tteokbokki. I usually go to that every lunch a year ago or two. I don't know how long I've been in San Diego now. Maybe it's because things are just going by too fast for me. But I don't know. Have you ever tried BB.Q or any of the Korean fried chicken?
I have no.
Well,
do we have that here in Vancouver?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
We
do have Korean fried chicken.
Yeah, we have juke
for
chicken
sure.
for sure.
Is juke?
Oh, I have to try that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
Unless someone lied to me. That's what
Could be.
So they sold
well,
it
no,
to
I
me.
don't know. Yeah.
They were like, it's Korean.
Speaking of fried chicken, like there's this place very close to our office called Unchai Thai, and then somebody had told me was like that place is actually like super legit because I was like, oh, okay, I don't know about that place. I don't know. It doesn't. Yeah, and it is very legit from what I can tell. And I ordered the fried chicken there, or chicken wings, fried chicken, and that was also very good. So I'm thinking about that now that we're talking about food.
You're like, that's what I'm going to order right after this call.
Yeah. And it could be.
I know, like talking about food was probably gonna have us go down the rabbit hole, but I figured like having a good 10 minutes of just understanding of like what you're craving for also gives me an idea of like who you two are, and you're just very easygoing, casual. I love it. I just love it because sometimes I feel like a lot of times when people come onto these sessions, it almost feels like they're just trying to say the correct word, and it's like, no, I just want you to talk about food because like I don't want you to talk about like, oh, my favorite food is from my own culture because it's AAPI Heritage Month. Yeah. But if you're craving burgers, you're craving burgers. There's nothing wrong with that. We're Asian Americans, Asian Canadians, and we love everything that's either from our culture or where we're living, where we're at. So, and that's part of the experience that I always wanted to like bring out all the time in almost every of my talks. So,
So
but
go get some '90s pizza, everybody. Like, forget the
Okay,
good,
but have you
forget the
tried?
good pizza.
But have you tried deep dish?
I have, yeah,
Oh,
and I
and
live to
nothing?
tell the tale. Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
okay, some people in Chicago,
Yeah.
I know
They just
Kimmy
all
might
dropped
be.
off.
I did eat. Okay, so I went to Chicago once when I was younger. I think I was doing a performance, and my friend took me out to deep dish pizza because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I want to try this. And I was quite young. I think I was like 25
So you didn't
at the time.
understand.
Well, I mean, I didn't. What happened was afterwards, I started feeling really bad. Like I had like pain in my chest,
Oh
and I was
no.
like, "What is this pain?"
Heartburn?
Yeah, and then people were like, "This is heartburn." And I'm like, that's why I said I was young because I had yet
Mm.
really to
Okay. So
to
the first time,
experience
okay,
such a thing.
so the first time I had heartburn, I honestly thought I was having a heart attack. I was like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is this?
yeah. I was like,
Just
"Oh
small
shit!"
potato. Yeah. Yeah. I also was young and had no idea.
Now we know. Now we're cursed. Now we know.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now we're familiar with the feeling.
Hmm.
I love to keep talking about food, but
Yes, I know.
but I know like we'll talk about we would need a whole session just for food itself, which is totally fine. Like maybe at some point in the future we'll have to talk about food, especially
Okay.
like discussing food in 1000xResist, which by the way,
Mm.
for those who have actually not played or who have played the game, there is pizza mentioned in that, and there's a significant like symbolic meaning behind the pizza, the cake in that one chapter, and I just felt like, oh, this resonates with me because I remember growing up, like I said these things because I was trying to fit in. So like, so here we are. We're gonna go straight into 1000xResist. Amazing game, by the way. If you have not played it, please try it out. I think it's currently on sale on Steam for May, but I wish I could just go back before the Steam sale happened so I could give them the full price. Can I just pay you through PayPal instead for the
That's
extra
so
money?
sweet.
Thank you.
Oh.
And I'm not lying because like I'm not the type of person who plays walking simulators or exploration heavy games, and I'm somebody who plays games like World of Warcraft or played games like Quake back in the day when I was entering tournaments because I qualified. and I'm just a very adrenaline based type of person. But the moment I started this game, I came across a character named Zhao. It goes pretty deep, so you'll probably figure out that Zhao has become like one of my favorite characters in the game because it's somebody that I can relate to coming into the Americas as a child and being called a fob is uncovering a suppressed memory that I totally forgot until I played this game, and it's like, oh wow, I forgot what it meant, like what it felt like when people call me an FOB or just being criticized for having my accent on or not dressing in a way to fit in with the culture. So a question for Remy. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, because the game features so many relatable experiences for the AAPI individuals, were those experiences your own or a collective of experiences of other AAPI individuals, or were they unconsciously both when you added them into the game?
They were definitely some kind of synthesis of experiences that the writers and myself and I'm sure many of the performers on the
Hmm.
game have had growing up, in North America. So to answer that part of the question, yes. And I think it was very intentional for us to bring that part of it into the game, especially, as you said, there's not that many video games that do really acknowledge this kind of experience. And I think from very, very much from the beginning, our desire was to make yeah, sure, this speculative fiction sci-fi thing, but that it was very much a speculative fiction sci-fi thing that centered around Asian diasporic experiences, as opposed to, say, experiences that people may have if they were still in their mother country or, say, their motherland.
And for you, Nhi, when voicing these characters, how did you react to them as you were reading through the script? Did you feel certain things you never expected to feel? Or this is something that you expect in a game that talks about AAPI diaspora?
I think I had a very similar experience to what you did. So we didn't actually have a script. Remy had a script hidden away, I'm sure, but he thought it would be easier for me to play test the chapters before I recorded. So I got to experience it all sort of in game form. So I was experiencing the written game as it were to be played. So I guess in a way I experienced it real time, and it was devastating. I mean, I was crying in the playtest where there was no voices or anything. No sound design, no music. It was just the words coming on the screen, and it was. I think what really hit me was the accuracy and how raw it was, and it wasn't hiding the truth. And I think something I've mentioned in other interviews is that personally for me, I felt I saw myself in both Iris and Zhao. Like I've seen myself on both sides where Zhao is just, you know, celebrating her culture and wanting to fit in. And then there's Iris who is denying where she comes from because she's trying to fit in so hard because she doesn't want, like you were saying, like she doesn't want people to tease her and make fun of her and call her names. So if she could just be as North American as possible, then they can just leave her alone. Maybe they'll see her for being more than just Asian. And I think that was because I'm firstborn Canadian for my family. So that was something that really hit me. I didn't speak English. I didn't speak English till I was until I was 8 or 9. So I struggled and I couldn't really communicate. So it was hard. So yeah, I think it really hit an emotional chord in me that I had forgotten or suppressed.
That's honestly the first chapter all the way into the end of the second. That's when it hit me really hard because it's like, first of all, you went through the high school and I was just like, oh no, this is the coming of age. This is the toughest part about being an Asian American, for going through all these experiences one more time. It was like watching my own experiences manifest in a video game. Whoa, I've never experienced anything like this before. And I know like this is supposed to be like the memories of an ancestor, but it almost felt like these were your memories too. Oh my god. Like going through this game I know this is going to hurt me a lot at the end of it, and it's going to hurt me really good. Usually games don't do that for me very often. I guess the last game that hit me really hard was Mass Effect, which, by the way, I wanted to ask you. I noticed like there are some elements of Mass Effect within the game. I wanted to ask like if that's like one of your favorite games or something like that.
Yeah, I think I don't know these days if it's like, it definitely at a period of time, especially when they were coming out. Mass Effect was one of my favorite games, or those BioWare RPGs in general. I think specifically for Mass Effect, I think it was in Mass Effect 2 where I kind of played that game, rushed through most of the combat of that game just so that I could get back on the ship and talk to whoever was on the ship, right? And just move the story along. And so much of the 1000xResist is very much like, okay, well, I think there's obviously a lot of people liked Mass Effect, enjoyed playing Mass Effect. And I'm not 100% like convinced that people played Mass Effect because it had combat in it, or it was a quote unquote shooting third person action game. I think people played Mass Effect because they continued to kind of think about Mass Effect 100% because they wanted to go catch up with whoever was, what was happening in the story and stuff like this. And so 1000xResist very much is, okay, well, what if just that part also descends a little bit from the point and click adventures of the 90s where it was that, but then there were puzzles. And so it's like, okay, well, no puzzles. And what if just like similar to the Mass Effect? Can we create that kind of loop, which is not 100% a gameplay mechanical one, but one where you just want to find out what anybody on the ship may be thinking at any given time?
It's a very dialogue-driven game. It's so engaging for me to talk to every single person before I move on to the chapter. I know like there's like an optional quest that tells you to like, hey, you should catch up with all your sisters. But it was rewarding when you get to catch up with all your sisters because you actually understand like what's happening around you. Because if you skipped all of those sisters and you just move the main story along, and I find out about a bunch of sisters that died or so, I wouldn't piece it together because it's like, why was this person significant to me? But every single character in the game was significant to the story, and it was integral to Watcher's upbringing. Do you feel the same way when you went through your first playthrough?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a bit of a completist anyways. I totally joked with Remy about like what the achievements would be because I'm like, how does someone get 100%? So I also went through and talked to every single person in the high school and onwards. To me, it was what feeds me is, some games with NPCs, they just have like little one lines and stuff, but people had full mini stories happening in separate rooms. Like when you went into the high school and that one girl wanted to be an actor so bad, and there was the director trying to direct her. That was a whole, I was like, what is happening here? So you get these little snippets of life, which I think adds to Watcher's like voyeuristic behavior because she herself is not involved directly. So you're getting all these stories secondhand. You're there, but you're not experiencing as if you're in it, even though you are physically there. So I found that was such a great base template to also learn about Watcher and who she is as a person, how she interacts with the world and Secretary, and how and her relationship with Secretary. So
Yeah. I also wanted to point out that even in the first chapter, I noticed later down the line that all the other sisters start to mimic the stuff that was happening in the first memory too. The director and the actors and the person that wants to act too, but they'll never get their chance. I noticed it was
so
mimicking. Yeah, I noticed like every single thing that happened in 1000xResist was being mimicked by the sisters as well. Even though it is a memory of Iris, all those characters seem to be replaying that memory even in current time too. And I'm not sure if that was something that was intentional, Remy, but I wanted to ask that, like, was that really intentional? Because I noticed like the whole game seems to interconnect from the beginning all the way towards as far as you can go. As I've actually haven't played all the way through the end because the game is, a lot of the choices that I make are very anxiety inducing. So
that's okay. Take it. I keep saying it is like people should take their time. Take your time.
yes,
yeah.
Always. Yes.
But I would say to that, yes, I think when we were working on the high school portion of the game, it was very much like, okay, well, high school is a microcosm of society, right? It has governance, it has security, it has, and then very much also kind of like casting forward towards the orchard where the sisters live. That is very much a small contained area that is also a microcosm of society. And they all have very similar things. Like, you have the library, you have the detention room, you have like other rooms. Because we made the game very much one chapter at a time, much of chapter one, when we were doing it, it was like, okay, well, let's forecast some of these things that we may be concerned about later. And I also think that it just so happens, I always think it's funny when kids are performing acts of governance and things like this. So it was always great to kind of lean into that. So,
but I think like kudos to the writing, because I find that sometimes, when it's not like the quote unquote main storyline, like NPCs can, be used to just give enough information. But like you were saying, it was like a whole microcosm, like each room, each person, such distinct personalities. Like, what was it, that classroom where that kid's like rapping?
Yeah.
There's like a whole entire rap about governance and politics and
the detention room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always in detention as a kid, so that was like something.
So that was personal.
Yeah. Well, not the rap was not, but like the feeling of being in detention, just being like,
Ugh, I'm here
yeah,
again.
yeah,
The Breakfast Club, honestly.
yeah.
Remy Siu, the troublemaker. That is a backstory we have to dive in at some point. But I want to keep asking questions for Nhi, by the way. I noticed from IMDb that this is the only video game you voice acted on.
Hmm.
I wanted to know, how did you actually come into this role? Like, were you reached out personally, or did some opportunity pop up and you said, wow, this looks really cool, like I gotta take this, and you applied for it? Or what was the motivation to work on a video game as well, since this is so different for you?
So different. Yeah, so I had, before I started recording for 1000xResist, I had started animation. So mainly cartoons, probably about maybe a year and a half before. So I was already transitioning to voice, kind of adding to my repertoire. But I do theater as well. I started out in theater, musical theater specifically, and then I I'm balancing my on-camera work with theater in Vancouver, and so part of the theater community, as Remy said, Sunset Visitor creative writing team were all based in theater before moving to video games. So one of the writers, actually, I had worked in a play with. We had done a play workshop, which is when a play hasn't been performed yet, and we kind of put it on its feet and give feedback in a dramaturge sort of stage. And he reached out saying, "Hey, I know we haven't worked together in a long time, but I'm helping write a video game. Would you be interested?" He gave like a little blurb and asked me if I wanted to audition, which was pretty crazy. To just get a random email being like, "Hey, I know I'm an actor and I did a play with you, but now I'm writing a video game." So I looked at the package and I thought it was so cool. Remy, do you remember the package?
I think I remember the package. I'm sure I could bring it up
Oh
if
my
it
gosh.
it had
Yeah.
a bunch of dialogue that wasn't actually in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and it had I think like seven different roles and like prototype of what Watcher would look like, or maybe at that point just a clone, and just a little synopsis. But the thing that really stood out to me was that the tone. There was like a massive highlight about the tone being very naturalistic. And I think, especially because animation, a lot of animation in Vancouver is geared towards like preteen, like young teens and kids. So it's a lot of energy and a bigger. So being able to audition for a project that was naturalistic and also a video game with the premise, I had just started getting back into video games because of the pandemic, so I knew that this was something I wanted to be a part of.
That's incredible. Now, you chose to be Watcher, right? Or did Remy made you become Watcher?
So they asked me to audition for, I think it was something crazy like seven roles. They were like, "Could you read for seven parts?" And I said, "That's a lot." So I said, "Why don't I read for three? Pick three that are like kind of different, and if you have a favorite, then we can do callbacks and see if there's anything else you want me to do." So I did. I actually read for four because I was so excited once I really got into the sides. And I had auditioned for Watcher. The audition scene for Watcher was when she's in the hospital with Zhao.
Oh, that must have
Oh
been tough.
yeah.
Yeah, it was so cool, but I don't know. I just was like, I want to do this one. But yeah, Remy called me with Watcher. So was I always? Because I know that there was a bunch, because there's so many sisters, right? And
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
maybe you could shine a light on the casting
Oh,
process.
right. The I think yeah, so the process in which we did this was we had that package and we sent it out to many different people, especially those in our community and in experimental performing arts and also in the AAPI community. And so we had a bunch of readings come back, and I think there were three writers, including myself, working on the project. We had all kind of come away, split out, and did our own castings. I think the practice was like, all right, let's like blind cast this and not tell each other, and then we would meet about it. So, okay, my memory is very fuzzy about this because it was such a long time ago. But what I do remember was I did cast Nhi as Watcher quite early, like pretty, I think in my first go of that.
Ooh.
So I'm not just saying this now because Nhi is around. It's because, and I think part of it was that there was something about Nhi's voice, and I think we've discussed this before, Nhi, where it's just like, it's funny to say now because it, like, when I hear Nhi's voice, especially as Watcher, it's like, oh yeah, like Nhi, like the Watcher is the main character, and this is the voice of the main character. But I think when I first heard that voice, I was like, oh, I don't think I've heard this type of voice as the main character either in a video game before and or in many kind of in what have you, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that was initially kind of what was driving. That was my instinct, was like, okay, this is a really interesting voice. Let's have that be the main character. Whereas for some reason they often, and maybe Nhi, you know more about this, it's like, why, well, people often cast the interesting voices. There's
As
a
the
kind of
main,
weird,
yeah,
like
it's
expectation
true.
for you to perhaps bond with that main character in a way that is like they have less characteristics. But I think for us, early on, it was like, okay, well, we need to make Watcher distinctive and obviously not you, the player.
But I
And
think you just
so,
nailed it right
yeah,
there. I think it's like when people play games or experience media, they want them to place themselves in the shoes of that character. So maybe having a more, like you said, less unique or characteristic voice makes it easier for them to put themselves in it. And you're right, I tend to go out for more like character roles, more like secondary supporting roles. And I do get that feedback. They're like, "Whoa, your voice has so much texture." So they tend not to, they I think they fear that it might be too much texture as a lead. But I'm glad you proved that you did think that. I'm very thankful.
I think we were just consistently like, oh, I don't know, it's just like doing, and this is for much of the game where it's like people do it this way. Like, why would they do it that way? Why did they do it this way? Like, I don't really understand. So,
I mean, the last time I've heard somebody talk about voice acting in the way Nhi styled Watcher, the only game that I thought about was Guild Wars 2 when they handled their main characters, because they sound not unique. They sound generic enough to the point where people can insert themselves into their own created character. And I thought that was a really interesting take. I didn't really think about it, but it did make it easy for me to be in niche, like, no, I'm sorry, Watcher's shoes. Now I'm associating Nhi as Watcher, and it's like
That's okay.
the lines
They're blurring.
the
She's
lines are
part of me.
blurring. It's hard to separate you from that character because you've made that character stand out for me, honestly.
Thank you. She's very special. Like, I think I learned to really love her and be very protective of her. Like, I remember being really mad at like Nowhere for a long time. In the game. Like, oh my god. And
no
also like
spoilers.
knowing that they're it's not a spoiler, it's fine. You can be mad at your sisters. People, I have
I know.
two sisters. We get mad at each other a lot and then it's forgiven the next day. Even an hour later, right? So
That's what family is good for. Getting mad and then can forgive you really quick on the next
mhm.
day. It's like
Mhm.
nothing because it's just, this is normal for us.
Exactly.
Still on the topic of Watcher, did you feel like it was a huge responsibility to take on a character like that? And for Remy, I wanted to ask you, like, did you feel like it was a huge responsibility to even design the experience of somebody going through all of these experiences that many AAPI individuals have gone through before, like the genuine portions and the authenticity of it? Do you feel like that was a huge challenge for you?
Maybe you should
Do
go
you want me to
first.
go first? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was a huge responsibility for me as an actor, and I can only speak from that perspective. It with the fact that this was my first video game and it was a lead role, so I think there was a lot of responsibility to really understand the story, my character, and deliver a performance that would be engaging and make sense, like that would build an entire arc throughout the entire game. That was what was important to me. I think sometimes thinking about all the other things, which, as we are as humans, and for me, like I need to know everything. Like I'm that's just how I have to operate. I'm like, but why? But why? So understanding the whole story and stuff, I think for me, at an intellectual level was important. But when I was performing Watcher, I couldn't think about that because that would just take away from the performance, especially because Watcher is experiencing everything in real time. So I think that was the biggest challenge, was unlearning something once you've learned it and performing it as is. And also Remy's voice direction style is he really is collaborative. So he doesn't direct me right away. So we'll start on a scene. We'll have a chat about the scene in case I've forgotten, but the play tests were a dream because was able to go into my memory and remember exactly where I was in the game before I performed it. And he wouldn't give direction. He'd be like, okay, cool. He'd let me do a couple runs by myself. Unless I really was off the mark, then he'd come in and save me.
What would I say during those times? I don't remember. It would just be like, well, let's try it this way.
Yeah, I think you'd be like that, but like maybe more like internal. That was
Oh
a
yeah,
big
yeah,
no.
right,
You'd be
right,
like, I
right,
like
right.
what you're doing, but like maybe more internal,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
more internal. Like, yeah.
right. Yeah. In terms of whether it was a big responsibility for us, I mean, I would say at the same time, in retrospect, kind of yes. I think maybe at the time we were very much just focused on kind of doing what we had set out to try and do, which was like to engage this with a level of specificity that was important. I know that, and I'm not saying that this is that this should stop, for example, but I know that there is like things that are happening in wider media that involved AAPI stories more often, but we were seeing that and we were a little bit dissatisfied with the level of specificity, especially when it came to geopolitics, because geopolitics have a lot to do with why a lot of people in the AAPI community have come to North America or had to leave or has wanted to come. And like that part of the story was being erased, especially when, say, like there are diversity initiatives in which you want to include us, but you only want to include the nice part. And that part was always something that we were like, yeah, for lack of a better word, fuck that, right? And so let's try and actually go to a place with the game and then also with the narrative where it's like, hey, for us to be represented, you have to kind of do all of it, right? As much as you can. And also something that we always think about is that because these are these are new ways of trying to express it. Of course, migration and the experience of migration has been around for a very long time, right? But like in the specific kind of Asian diaspora context in North America, that's historically relatively new along the, say, spectrum of human existence. And so it was a thing where we wanted to make sure that we paired that also with a kind of experimenting in form. And so it was not, say, just a more traditional container that was filled with that stuff, but the container itself was strange and sharp and as strange and sharp and variable as the various kind of experiences we may have in this community. And this is something that I think the writers have been interested in doing and have been doing in our prior performing arts life for quite a while. And then taking it to games is specifically something that we were like, okay, let's try to do it, but knowing that this would be a much bigger accessible audience, I guess.
Honestly, I'm really glad that you said the quiet part out loud, where when they want to include AAPI experiences, but they only want to take the nice part and they don't want to talk about the other issues, the expectations from both sides, our own culture, our parents. They don't want to talk about the political violence that's happened within our own country and within where we're currently living in, is just so that was something that just needs to be said. Because a lot of times I feel like when people include AAPI into their games, The only thing that I would ever see is people that just either fall under like the three top nations, which is basically like mainland China, Japan, or Korea, but then they forget that other people exist in Asia as well, including like India and Pakistani, which is insane to me that everybody thinks that when they think of Asians, they would think the top three, but never people from like Hong Kong, for example. I think the one game that like I think about when they talk about AAPI representation, when most people think about is going to Overwatch and they see characters
Right.
like Mei,
May.
Genji, Hanzo, and Kiriko. Like there's 3 Japanese characters and there's no Filipino characters at all, and it's just mind blowing to me.
I've thought about this because this is a problem for on camera as well. And I think a lot, because, everyone's like, representation matters and stuff, but like obviously being like Southeast Asian, it's like, well, I don't really feel like I'm being represented in the same way. Unfortunately, I think it comes down to capitalism. Like they have bigger markets, more, so therefore like more funding, more money, more markets, more ability to make money if those characters are based off. I guess the idea is that, okay, well, Korean people will like this. It's centered around their story. They'll watch it. And I think we're not giving an opportunity. We're basing our creative choices based off of money. And I think that's never a
Profit.
Exact profit margins. And it's not how you make art. And so I think,
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Nhi.
No, go ahead, Remy. Yeah.
I think something that's important to be said about 1000xResist as well is that it wouldn't exist without the Canada Media Fund. So I'm not here to shill my funder. I'm here to say they're already very happy with me. So like they God. It's more that, I don't think that, for example, if it was and was going to be possibly very difficult to find purely private sources of funding for this game at a prototype level. And I think part of why it got to be the way that it was or is that we were funded by a public body. It like, I should specify and say that it's not a grant. Like the Canada Media Fund, as in the interactive section, does provide. You do have to. It's like a recoupable advance, right? But the idea of how do I phrase this? It's one of those functions of that kind of arts funding or public funding where it's like, yes, we're not 100% immediately concerned with making money. Not to say that they won't and they don't. With other Canada Media Fund projects, but it's more that they are aligned in the sense that they want to find ways to tell stories that wouldn't otherwise be perhaps funded in the private sector, and like now it's a little bit easier for us, right, because of the various awards and the acclaim, I guess. But if it wasn't for an institution like Canada Media Fund, or say a arm's length arts funding body to invest in the work early on, I think it would have been very difficult for it to be made from a private sector perspective.
I can't even imagine. It's like, not only are you indie developers doing a very unique story, like you were saying, it's like all the games that, most mainstream games, it's like there's no combat. It's a walking simulator. It's like all the things that most people would associate with video games, this game is not. You are first-time video game developers as well. You've never done it before. Like that's so. I can't imagine a lot of people wanting to finance that. It's too. They would consider it a risk, right? Too big.
There's like risks. Right? It's like very red flag risk in every aspect, right? Yeah. Like let's have a cast that's like 95% Asian Canadian women. Let's have a like a huge diasporic like focus on the story. Let's have it be a weird experimental game where there's no combat. Let's have, all of those things were just like, from a private sector perspective, as you say, would be ashamed to say that they would consider it perhaps a risk. But, and that's also where I should give credit to our publisher, indie publisher. I think they knew all of that, and they still dove in with us as well.
That is so goated. I'm actually super happy that somebody took the risk, put faith in this game, because honestly, if this game were to never see the light of day, like we wouldn't be having conversations like this. If anything, I think AAPI and gaming wouldn't even, how do I say this? I don't think AAPI and gaming wouldn't have a very solid foundation if it weren't for games like this. So I personally am thankful that the Canadian, what is it called?
Canada Media Fund. Yeah.
Canada Media Fund. Personally, I would thank them because this is an incredible game. And I'm not somebody who's played games like that before, even though like games like Talos Principle exist or Firewatch. This is like one of my very first walking simulators, and I was already hooked ever since the end of chapter 1, only because the dynamic between Zhao and Iris really sold it for me. And I was like, okay, I'm in for a real treat, but this is going to be very traumatizing towards the end, because it is resurfacing a lot of experiences for me. And even though I'm not someone who is Hong Konger, but these are shared experiences that me as a Filipino, we do share the same backgrounds, the same experiences, similar experiences, like going into the Americas. Why? Because something at home happened and it forced us to move away. Everyone has various reasons for it, but the upbringing of children in America, it feels like this is something we all share because we all have heard the same things. FOB, or fix your accent. Don't cry when you fall down or something because you can't show weakness. Those things were hitting me a lot. Honestly, it is just an incredible game, and I really hope everybody gets the chance to play it. But seriously, let me get your PayPal or something so I can get you the extra $5.
It's okay. You've done the. You can. You've told others.
You're supporting us right now.
Yeah.
This is so lovely.
I wanted to ask a few more questions. Like, do you two plan to make another game together under Sunset Visitor?
Yeah, probably. We were just talking about something yesterday. So
Yeah, it was like, I don't know what you can say.
Yeah. I mean, I can only say that Sunset Visitor will make more games. It's probably not the last time you'll hear Nhi. Sorry, that's the extent of which I could say. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you've heard it here. Sunset Visitor is planning to make another video game. Can't talk about it, unfortunately, because it is just something that just happened suddenly. And hopefully you get more funding out of this. The last thing I wanted to ask was, who was your favorite character out of all of 1000xResist?
That's so hard because for me, I think playing the game, I saw myself in everybody at different moments. But I think the person who captured my heart was Zhao. I felt so, because I felt like that was me a long time ago. It was like, oh, my inner child that I had kind of stifled. I feel like it's another opportunity for me to protect that inner child that I didn't do a very good job the first time around. So, yeah, she definitely. I told Remy that. Remember, I said Zhao's going to be a fan favorite. She's so good. She's so accurately written, and you didn't shy away from, all the sad parts. Like I remember being desperate for friends and just kind of like throwing myself so hard that it was, what the kids would call cringe now, but I did. I did.
That is a fan favorite of me too.
Yeah.
Zhao. As I said in the beginning of the podcast.
Remy,
I think it's no secret at this point that Noah is my favorite character, or one of my favorite characters, or at least the character that we enjoyed, or at least I enjoyed writing the most, largely because of how much code switching that she has to do all the time. And it's very much just like, Noah was written from a perspective of like, okay, person of color in an institution.
Mm-hmm.
How do they have to code switch and operate to get anything done or to make anything happen, or to also, and how much does that perhaps could poison their soul or poison their, or be very difficult for them.
Yeah, I kind of got that about Noah, that for her to know so much to be inquisitive was also taking a burden upon herself, like probably like one of the heaviest burdens of the sisters, because she knows too much. She knows so much, but she can't share it. She knows it can hurt certain people, and I just felt so bad for her because she's carrying that weight. It only takes you a few chapters to finally realize that, and you want to do something to help her, but you really can't. Only you can help yourself in this game.
Yeah, and another character that I remember, I think I told you this too, Remy. I was like, wow, Healer is so, she sees all the most devastating parts of the cloning and so much death around her, and she has this just dark and wicked sense of humor because of it. And I think when you first meet her, you're like, oh, she's really short and mean, but she actually is one of the most empathetic characters. I think she feels a lot and has to deal with the trauma in her own way, day to day. That world weariness she was fantastic.
She is raw, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah.
she would not hold back. Yeah, she would not hold back.
Which I think I admire, because I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I said something in that situation.
She says the parts that I wanted to say to Watcher during that sequence of communing with her, because it's like, what are you doing, Watcher? Like, she's trying to tell you something, but in a way, the game is about coming of age, and Watcher is, in my opinion, in my perspective, she is exactly like what a child is. Like, she doesn't know anything better. That anything that she's been fed to, she believes it 100%. Mm-hmm. But as she goes through these communions, she's going through adulting really quickly, because let's face it, that's her function. Her function is to watch. Her function is to understand what's happening and to pay attention to every detail. And it also talks about, like, growing up is not a very smooth process. You know, growing up is very excruciatingly violent, and it changes you dramatically no matter what. Like, the person you were like 15 minutes ago in this game, you're not the same person 15 minutes later. And it was just so mind-blowing how you were able to convey that Watcher is being hurt by every single memory she has to go through, and it's just so real for me to go through with her on that journey as well.
I mean, you totally nailed it by calling her like a child in the beginning, because like a kid, you kind of echo your parents' teachings, right? You kind of like, oh, this is what I was taught, so I just do it without actually questioning anything. And she really doesn't question anything until she receives the truth from a sister that she really trusts. And now she starts realizing that her entire paradigm, her universe, her truth, her being, her purpose is not all being questioned. And so, like an adult, you know, when you find out, as you're adulting, as you say, like, you find out your reality is just completely wrong on a world scale. Like, maybe it made sense in like a very small high school scale, but as you go out into the world, you realize, oh shit, I guess that's not how we do it, or maybe I was brought up different, or wow, there's a different way of doing this or thinking, and I think that's why it resonated with so many people.
After this call, I really want to go like play more of this, because like talking about it just makes me want to play it even more again. Since we are out of time, I wanted to say to the audience, thank you for joining us on this special episode. Thank you, Nhi. Thank you, Remy, for joining us here to talk more about the experiences that you are sharing with us while developing this game. These are actual experiences. We shouldn't hide away from these experiences as well, because at some point we gotta go sit down and say, who am I? In the same sense as like Watcher, what am I? Who am I? As she continues to progress in the game. Thank you for your time. I really want to talk to you both again, because I love talking about this. This is like such an academic talk for me. And it is a pleasure to hear, like, to pick at your brains about how you come to introduce these experiences to your audience. So thank you again. I hope everybody here has a wonderful rest of your day. Tune in next time for another episode with AAPI and Gaming. Happy AAPI Heritage Month.